Hello everyone, my name is DarkHero, welcome back to my channel where we cover Dauntless content. I am so glad you are here, and today I will be going over the top 10 mistakes that I think most of you are probably doing or at least have done at some point. These are common mistakes that you will see beginner players do, but you will also see some pretty advanced players doing them as well. Hopefully this video will make players more aware of some of the mechanics that are present in Dauntless, and I just hope that this video can help some members of the community. With that being said, let's get started, and the very first common mistake that I see people doing very often has to do with Aether Vents. Very often I see players being very reckless, especially at the beginning of the fight, and they end up wasting their healing potions very early on in the fight. Players should try to use the Aether Vent to heal themselves as much as possible, as whenever the behemoth you're trying to hunt moves to a different area in the hunt, another Aether Vent will spawn in that new location. Going up to an Aether Vent and pressing the interact button will allow you to heal yourself for a pretty nice chunk of health. And it also has the added bonus of charging your lantern hold ability. You can increase the amount of health that is regained whenever you go up to an Aether Vent by using the perk Aetherborn. Not only does it give you a 25% chance to not consume an Aether Vent charge on use at any level, once you have Aetherborn plus 6, you will be able to gain 200 additional Aether Vent healing. Aether Vents have a limited amount of charges, so you should pay attention to how many charges are left and don't waste all of them very quickly. But the thing that most people do not know about Aether Vents is that the final charge of the Aether Vent can be shared across all players. Say for example, if you and another player go up to an Aether Vent and no one has touched it and both of you interact with it, then that is going to consume 2 Aether Vent charges. But when an Aether Vent has only a single charge left, all 4 players can go up to the Aether Vent and interact with it. And if all players hold the interact button, all 4 players will be able to heal themselves from the Aether Vent. So the best practice is to always leave a final charge on the Aether Vent, so that when the behemoth moves on to a different area, all 4 players can go up to the Aether Vent and press the interact button at the same time, so that you can all gain the healing benefits. But sometimes this doesn't work at all because you're playing with randoms and they might go up to the Aether Vent and use the final charge without knowing this tip. What you can do here is, since that player is already going to waste the final charge of the Aether Vent, you might as well go there as well and heal yourself. And in a very similar train of thought, the next common mistake that I see players doing very often, and very advanced players do this all the time as well, is wasting their self-revives very early on in the fight. Each player has access to 3 self-revives per hunt. However, this does not mean that you should be using all of them very quickly without having to worry about anything. If you do fall down from taking damage from a behemoth, stay down and wait for another player to come revive you. This is very important for 2 different reasons. Firstly, one of the players that you're playing with might be using the perk Medic. At level 6, the Medic perk will make it so that when reviving an ally, the ally that was down will be healed an additional 40% and will increase the revive speed by 66%. Additionally, this perk will also grant a 300 health shield for 20 seconds after reviving an ally. And the second reason, and perhaps the most important reason as to why you should not self-revive as soon as you are downed, is because of the danger threat meter. When you are on a hunt, you'll see that on the top right corner of the screen there is the damage meter. It has a percentage and will increase over time. Not only does it increase as the fight lasts longer, it also increases as players start to die. Once the danger meter goes up to 100%, no one is able to revive any other players that are downed. The only way for players to come back to life is for them to use the self-revives, which is why it is important for players to keep the self-revives for when they are truly needed. While it is true that if a player is downed and stays dead, the meter will start to increase faster, it is preferable for a player to go up to the downed player and revive him manually without the downed player using the self-revive, as reviving other players also decreases the danger meter. And again, you might run into a teammate that is using the Medic perk, and that will give you a lot more benefits than just using the self-revive. The third mistake that I often see players doing is hitting behemoth parts that are already broken. You should try to prioritize breaking all of the behemoth parts, because not only will you receive more rewards at the end of the hunt, But each time you stagger a behemoth, you will stagger that behemoth and will have a huge window of opportunity to deal lots of damage. And this is especially important if you are using the Overpower perk, which increases your damage by 80% against staggered behemoths. So if you are running this perk at level 6, you are going to increase your damage output by a lot. Although I have to say, as a quick note, it is still fine if you're still hitting the behemoth head with the hammer after you have already broken that part, because the hammer does extra stagger damage. But, generally speaking, it is best to attack the parts that have yet to be broken. The next common mistake has to do with stamina consumption and stamina preservation. A lot of the more powerful combos of most of the weapons in Dauntless do require you to spend some stamina to perform them. Take for example the sword's repeating elements combo or the axe's finisher, where you keep bashing the behemoth with this giant axe over and over again, and oh, it's so good. Anyways, these combos do require you to spend quite a bit of stamina, and even if you have some perks that may reduce the amount of stamina that you use, or perks that increase the stamina recovery, you should always keep an eye out on your stamina gauge and be sure that you have just enough stamina to roll out of the way if the behemoth has a chance to attack you. Most of the time it's just best to forego that final hit of the combo you were about to do and to be able to avoid the incoming attack rather than landing that attack but getting hit by the behemoth. If you manage to avoid the attack, not only will you not take any damage, but you can go back to the fight immediately. You will not have any downtime. Additionally, if you have a perk such as Evasive Fury, which increases your attack speed after you dodge an attack, you can increase your overall damage output as you will be attacking the behemoth faster. And still on the topic of dodging attacks, the next mistake I see people doing all the time, and this is something I mentioned in my Dauntless tips video, is that people will often roll away from attacks when they should instead try to roll into the attacks. Dodging in Dauntless offers you a ton of invincibility frames that you can and should abuse as much as possible. I know the concept of rolling into attacks can feel weird to some people, especially if you come from other games where you're not supposed to do that for most of the time. But seriously, do give this a try and you're going to see a huge improvement and you're going to be able to dodge a lot more attacks. Now, these mistakes are a bit more specific, but I think they should still be addressed here in the video, as they may impact you in a big way. Moulton is a perk that makes it so that when you are dealing damage, you will generate a Molten Heart. At level 6, after dealing damage, you will generate 3 Molten Hearts on a 16-second cooldown. These Molten Hearts are important because they make the user immune to fire, but more importantly, they increase the attack speed and movement speed by 20%. However, picking up more than a single Molten Heart does not stack the effects of the buff. It only ends up stacking the duration of the buff. As such, what you should probably do as a person that has the Molten perk equipped is deal damage to a behemoth and pick up 1 or 2 Molten Hearts and leave the third one for a teammate to pick up. That way you are going to be offensive and you're going to increase not only your damage output but your teammates' damage output as well. But hey, that's your own perk that you have added to your loadout, so it's fine if you choose to pick up all 3 of them. But the bad part about this, which is the biggest mistake associated to the Moulton perk, and I'm sure a lot of you already see what's coming, is when other users that are not using the Moulton perk go ahead and pick up every single Molten Heart that is dropped from your own damage. Seriously, that is just rude. Picking up these Molten Hearts as a player that does not have the Moulton perk equipped should be a bonus. And as such, you should only pick up those Molten Hearts after the user who has dropped the Molten Hearts picks 1 or 2 up. Basically, just don't be too greedy, because that is not a pleasant experience. The next big mistake I often see players doing has to do with the repeaters. You see, the repeaters are the only ranged weapon in Dauntless. However, this does not mean that the Austrian repeaters are a long-range weapon. That is actually not the case. They have a very severe range drop-off, and as such, they should be used as shotguns. Players that use the Austrian repeaters should try to pay attention to the range between themselves and the behemoth that they are fighting against. The game actually has a hidden mechanic that is never explained, but allows you to know if you are dealing damage to a behemoth without suffering any damage reduction due to the range drop-off. Simply take a look at the reticle in the center of the screen. If the reticle is red, that means you have no range drop-off penalty. If the reticle is white, your damage will suffer from range drop-off, so you should stay closer to the behemoth. The next mistake you'll find a lot of people making is that when they are on a hunt, they don't pick up these blue aether wisp things. I'm not sure what to call them. A lot of people just assume that all these things do is give you an increased movement speed for a brief period of time. However, not only do they do that, but they also charge your lantern's holdability. That means that if you pick up a bunch of these blue aether wisps, by the time you get to the behemoth, you may already have your lantern holdability ready. And in the case of something like the Drask Lantern, or if you have the perk Conduit, that is a big plus. So don't dismiss these blue aether wisp things because they can actually be very useful. And another big mistake that I see a lot of people making is they don't take advantage of the middleman NPC. I have already explained this at length, so I'm not going to elaborate too much on this, but what this NPC allows you to do is to basically have some control in the RNG to decide which type of cells you're going to get. I mean, you can even combine two of the exact same cell to get an even more powerful version of that same cell. That is 100% guaranteed, there is no RNG there and the game allows you to do that. While the middleman is not the #1 source for getting cells, do not dismiss him and definitely go visit him as much as possible. And the final big mistake that a lot of Dauntless players seem to make is that they don't use a creator code when they buy something in the store. Okay, now in all seriousness, I think that the addition of the creator code is a very cool thing. It allows you to input the code of a content creator that you like, that you follow and you think is helpful to you, and any purchases that you make in the game are going to help that creator. There are many wonderful content creators in the Dauntless community and we are very lucky to have them. If you have a content creator whose content you enjoy watching and perhaps look up to, then go ahead and use their creator code, as just as I said earlier, that is going to help them out. If you like the content I produce and would like to support my channel and to allow me to do this full time to bring more content for you guys, then you could use my code DarkHeroCC and that will help me out big time. Having said that, if you have enjoyed this video or found it helpful, then please drop a like on it as it greatly helps me out. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and turn on channel notifications if you don't want to miss an ounce of Dauntless content. I have also been live streaming a lot recently, so go ahead and follow me, the link is in the description. Also, as many of you already know, I am a Dauntless partner, so I will have my own custom flare very soon and I will be giving that away to you guys. So be sure to look forward to that to get your own Wiggler King flare very soon. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to my patrons for supporting me and helping me do what I love, especially John Cohen and Guildarts Gaming. If you would like to support me, the link to my Patreon is down in the description, but with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. My name is DarkHero and happy hunting!